Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to complete Reproduction in Organism NCERT line to line. Explanation 2. So, let's start. Each and every organism can live only for a certain period of time. The period from the birth to natural death of an organism represent its lifespan. Lifespan of a few organisms are given in figure 1.1. Several other organisms are drawn from which should find out their lifespan and write in their spaces are provided. So this is what figure 1.1 is given. Butterfly की एज होती है 1 to 2 weeks. क्रो की एज होती है 15 years. पैरट की एज होती है 140 साल. क्रोकोडाइल की एज होती है 60 साल. टॉर्टोइस की 100 से 150. फ्रूट फ्लाई की 1 दिन. बनाना ट्री की बनान ट्री की 200 years. Rose is 5 to 7 years. Banana is 25 years. Rice is 3 to 4 months. And horse is 25 to 30 years. Cow is 15 to 20 years. These years are quite important. Let's go for next line. Isn't it both interesting and intriguing to note that it may be as short as few days or as long as few thousand years? Between these two extremes are the lifespan of most other living organisms. You may note that lifespan of organisms are not necessarily correlated with their sizes. See, the sizes of crow and parrots are not very different, yet their lifespan show a very wide difference. Similarly, a mango tree has much shorter lifespan as compared to the peepal tree. Whatever be the lifespan, death of every individual organism is certain. No individual is immortal except single cell organism. This is a question. Why do we say there is no natural death in single cell organism? Come on, given this reality, have you ever wondered how vast number of plants and animal species have existed on earth for several thousand of years? There must be some processes in living organism that ensures this continuity. Yes, we are talking about the reproduction, something that we take for granted. This is what is shown in next page. Elephant, rose, dog, butterfly, crow, banana tree, cow, parrot, crocodile, horse, fruit fly, rice plant, tortoise, banana tree. So let's go for next page. Reproduction is defined as a biological process in which an organism gives rise to the young ones, that is called as offspring, similar to itself. The offspring grows, mature, and in turn reproduce new offspring. Thus, there is a cycle of birth, growth, and death. Reproduction enables the continuity of species generation after generation. You will study later in chapter 5, principle of inheritance of variation, genetics, how genetic variation is created and inherited during the reproduction. So there is a large diversity of biological world, and each organism has evolved its own mechanism to multiply, produce its offspring. The organism's habitat, its internal physiology, and several other factors are collectively responsible for how it produces, based on whether their participation of one's organism or two in the process of reproduction. It is of two types. When offspring is produced by a single parent with or without the involvement of gamete formation, this reproduction is asexual. When two parents of opposite sex participate in the reproductive process, also involves fusion of male and female gamete, it is called as sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction. In this method, a single individual parent is capable of producing offspring. As a result of the offspring they are produced are not only identical to one another but also are exact copies of their parents. Are these offspring likely to be genetically identical or different? The term clone is used to describe such morphologically and genetically similar individual. Each individual of clone of cell is called as ramete. Remember this, ramete, R-A-M-E-T. Okay. Parent cell, you can see cell division in unicellular organism. Budding in yeast. This is budding in yeast. And this is binary fusion in amoeba. This is binary fusion in amoeba. A mature female amoeba, not female. In unicellular, we can't actually denote it, but this amoeba, particular mature amoeba, this is the nucleus of amoeba, creates some kind of chemicals, get divided into two daughter nuclei. So this is daughter cell separated from a particular mature amoeba. So let's go for a budding in yeast. See, this is a parent cell of yeast. A parent cell's nucleus divides. First thing is nucleus is dividing. A nucleus divided and a bud starts growing. Bud starts growing from it. At a particular moment, a small bud is separated from its parent, and the parent's nucleus comes back to it. Let us see how widespread asexual reproduction is among different groups of organisms. Asexual reproduction is common among single cell organisms and in plants and animals with relatively simple organization. In protists and monarians, the organism of the parent cell divides by mitosis into two to give rise to new individuals. Thus, in these organisms, cell division is itself a mode of reproduction. Now let's see next page. Herein, we are given 4 diagrams. Asexual reproductive structures these are not organism. This can be organism, not be organism, but these are structures, right? So सबसे पहला structure है zoospores. This is zoospores of Chlamydomonas. It is a algae. Chlamydomonas is algae, you know. So it can be isogamete, biflagellated, and zoospores. So its function is, it is isogamete, biflagellated, zoospores of Chlamydomonas. Here you can see conidia of penicillium. This is birds in Hydra. This is gemmules in sponges. Let's go for this paragraph. Many single cell organisms reproduce by binary fission, where a cell divides into two halves and each rapidly grows into adult. Amoeba and Paramecium is an example of binary fission. In yeast, the division is unequal and small, which eventually gets separated and mature into new yeast. It's organism. Under unfavorable condition, amoeba withdraws its pseudopodia and secretes a three-layer hard covering or cyst around itself. This phenomenon is termed as uncystation. Where favorable conditions return, the uncysted amoeba divides by multiple fission and produces many minute amoeba or pseudopodiospores. A cyst wall bursts out and the spores are liberated in the surroundings medium to grow up into many amoebae. This phenomenon is called as sporulation. तो भाई एक सिंपल सी बात है, देखो उधर लिखा है कि बाइनरी फिजन अमीबा पैरामेशियम में होता है, बडिंग हाइड्रा एंड ईस्ट में होती है, कोनिडिया फंजाई में होता है और जेम्यूल फॉर्मेशन स्पॉन्जेस में होता है. एंड सिंपल एज दैट अमीबाज का जो टॉपिक है, थोड़ा सा केस है, 2-3 लाइन है, उसमें सिर्फ 2 फिनोमेना दिया है, अनसिस्टेशन एंड स्पोरुलेशन. अनसिस्टेट मतलब दिस इज अ मैच्योर अमीबा, दिस इज अ मैच्योर अमीबा. उसके बाहर 3 लेयर की हार्ड कवरिंग जिसको सिस्ट कहा गया है वो फॉर्म हो जाती है जब अनफेवरेबल कंडीशन आती है. सो दिस अमीबा, फिर जब फेवरेबल कंडीशन आता है अमीबा के पास, तो फिर वो अमीबा डिवाइड होता है इनटू स्मॉल अमीबे. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, डायग्राम में ही लर्न करना है. देखो सबसे पहला जो है आइज ऑफ पोटैटो. दीज आर आइज ऑफ पोटैटो. जर्मिनेटिंग आई बर्ड्स भी दिखाया गया है. सो रिमेंबर दिस, आइज ऑफ पोटैटो एंड जर्मिनेटिंग आई बर्ड्स. दीज आर व्हाट वेजिटेटिवली प्रोपोगेटिंग इन एंजियोस्पर्म्स के एग्जाम्पल दिए गए हैं. पोटैटो में आइज होता है, जिंजर में नोट्स होते हैं, बर्ड्स होते हैं, एडवेंटिजियस रूट्स होते हैं. अच्छा, जिंजर में राइजोम ही बोला मैंने, बराबर बोला, राइजोम होते हैं. नाउ अगावे में होता है बुलबिल एंड दिस ब्रायोफाइलम में होता है एडवेंटेजियस बर्ड्स, जो अगर एक आप इसका ब्रायोफाइलम का एग्जांपल देती हो, आई हैव सीन दिस लाइव। सो अगर एक पान आप कुंडी में डाल दोगे तो उसको देखना 2-3 दिन के बाद उसके बर्ड्स ऐसे राइज हो जाएंगे, ऐसे बर्ड्स राइज हो जाएंगे। सो दिस इज व्हाट एक्चुअली आई हैव सीन। सो लीफ बर्ड्स इन ब्रायोफाइलम, ऑफसेट्स ऑफ वाटर हाइसिन। वाटर हाइसिन, दिस इज टेरर ऑफ बंगाल, रिमेंबर। ऐसे लिंक करते हुए जोड़ो, लिंक करते हुए पढ़ो तो याद आएगा। यू शुड टेक नॉलेज। तो अभी ये हो गया है, ऊपर चलते हैं। मेंबर्स ऑफ किंगडम फंजाई, सिंपल प्लांट्स सच एज एल्गी, reproduce through special asexual reproductive structures. The most common of these structures are zoospores that usually are microscopic motile structure. Other common asexual reproductive structures are conidia, penicillium, buds, Hydra, gemule, sponge. अभी पढ़ा हमने. You have learned about vegetative reproduction in plants class 11th. What do you think? Is vegetative reproduction also a type of asexual reproduction? Yes. What do you say so? Why do you say so? Because clones तैयार होते हैं, right? चलो, while in animals and other simple organisms, the term asexual is used unambiguously. In plants, the term vegetative reproduction is frequently used. In plants, the unit vegetative propagation, such as runner, rhizome, sucker, tuber, offset, bulb, are all capable of giving rise to new offspring. These structures are called as vegetative propagules. Runner is long grass, remember. Okay, let's go for next page. Obviously, since the formation of these structures does not involve two parents, the process involved is asexual. In some organisms, if the body breaks into distinct pieces, fragments, each fragment grows into an adult capable of producing offspring. Example, Hydra. This is also mode of asexual reproduction called fragmentation. You must have heard about the scronge of water bodies or about the terror of Bengal. This is nothing but the aquatic plant water hyacinth, which is one of the most invasive weed found growing wherever there is standing water. It drains oxygen from the water, which leads to the death of fishes. This line is a question. This line is a particular question. You will learn about we will learn about this water hyacinth in chapter 13 and 14. You may find it interesting to know the plant was introduced in India because of its beautiful flowers and shape of leaves. Since it can propagate vegetatively at phenomenal rate, spread all over the water body in a short period of time, it is very difficult to get rid of them. Are you aware how plants are you aware of how plants like potato, sugarcane, banana, ginger, dahlia are cultivated? Have you ever seen small plants emerging from the buds called eyes of the potato tuber from the rhizome of banana and ginger? When you carefully try to determine the site of origin of new plantlets in the plant listed above, you will notice that they are invariably arise from the nodes present in the modified stem of this plant. When the nodes come in contact with the damp soil or water, they produce roots and new plants. Similarly, adventitious buds arise from the notches present in the margins of leaves of bryophyllum. This ability is fully exploited by the gardeners and farmers for commercial propagation of such plants. It is interesting to note that asexual reproduction is common method of production in the organism that have a relatively simple organization, like algae, fungi, that they shift to sexual method of reproduction. Just before the onset of adverse condition, find out how sexual reproduction enables this organism to survive during unfavorable condition. Why is sexual reproduction favorable under such conditions? Because time wants genetic variation, right? Evolution होना चाहिए ना, इसलिए तो. Why is sexual reproduction favored under such conditions? It is because time wants genetic variation. Now, here a question था, right? Margins of leaves of bryophyllum, rate of reproduction कैसे होता है यहाँ पर? Fast होता है, इसलिए gardeners उसको exploit करते हैं. Okay, let's go. On the other hand, only sexual mode of reproduction is present in most of the animals. Asexual, vegetative as well as sexual modes of reproduction are exhibited by the higher plants. Now let's go for sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves formation of male and female gametes either of the same individual or by different individual, monoecious or dioecious of the opposite sex. These gametes fuse to form zygote, which develops to form a new organism. It is elaborate, complex and slow process as compared to the asexual reproduction. Because of the fusion of male and female gametes, sexual reproduction results in offspring that are not identical to the parents or amongst themselves. Therefore, this brings the genetic variation. A study of diverse organisms, plant, animal or fungi show that though they differ so greatly in external morphology, internal structure and physiology, when it comes to sexual mode of reproduction, surprisingly, they share a similar pattern. Let us first discuss what features are common to this diverse organism. All organisms have to reach a certain stage of growth and maturity in their life before they can reproduce sexually. That period of growth is called as juvenile phase. It is known as vegetative phase in plants. This phase is of variable duration in different organisms. The end of juvenile vegetative phase, which marks the beginning of the reproductive phase. Very important line. Very beautiful and important line. Can be seen easily in the higher plants when they come to flower. How long does it take for marigold, rice, wheat, coconut, mango plants to come to flower? In some plants where flowering occurs more than once, what would you call the interflowering period? Juvenile or mature? We will call it mature. Observe a few trees in your area. Do they flower during the same month year after year? Why do you think the availability of fruits like mango, apple, jackfruit? Jackfruit is funness. It is a veg, non-veg. Okay. Is seasonal. Are there some plants that flower throughout the year and some others that show seasonal flowering? ये बकवास है, इधर कुछ याद करने वाला नहीं है. लाइन पे आते हैं. Plants. The animal and biennial types show clear-cut vegetative, reproductive and senescent phase. But in perennial species, it is very difficult to define these phases. A few plants exhibit unusual flowering phenomena. Some of them, such as bamboo species, flowers only once in a lifetime, generally after 50 to 100 years, produce large number of fruits and die. Another plant, Strobilanthes kuntiana, Neela kuranji, flowers once in 12 years. As many of you would know, this plant flowered during September-October 2006. Its mass flowering transformed large tracts of hilly areas in Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu into blue stretches and attracted a large number of tourists. In animals, the juvenile phase is followed by morphological and physiological changes prior to the active reproductive behavior. The reproductive phase is also of variable duration in different organisms. Can you list the changes seen in human beings that are indicative of reproductive maturity? We can, but now not. Among animals, for example birds, do they lay eggs all through the years? Yes. Or is it a seasonal phenomena? What about other animals like frogs and lizards? You will notice that birds living in nature lay eggs only seasonally. However, birds in capitative, as in poultry farm, can be made to lay eggs throughout the year. In this case, laying eggs is not related to female placental, is not related to reproduction, but its commercial exploitation of human welfare. The females of placental mammals exhibit cyclic changes in activities of ovaries and accessory ducts as well as hormones during the reproductive phase. एक मिनट, इसके ऊपर बाद में होंगी, लेकिन इसका देख लो. मुझे बताओ, अगर वो सीजनली दे सकती है अंडा, तो फिर उनको कैसे पोल्ट्री फार्म में एक्सप्लॉइट किया जा सकता है? आर यू सीइंग दिस? आर यू एबल टू सी दिस? 1 मिनट. FSH हार्मोन इंजेक्शन दिए जाते हैं बर्ड्स को ताकि वो पूरे साल एग्स दे सके. बर्ड्स लिविंग इन नेचर ले एग्स ओनली सीजनली, बट However, birds in captivity, as in poultry farms, can be made. How they can be made? It is made during FSH hormone injection to lay eggs throughout the year. Now, in non-primate mammals like cow, sheep, rats, deers, dogs, tiger, etc., such cyclic changes during reproduction are called as oestrus cycle, whereas in primates, monkey, apes, humans, इसके लिए याद रखो हम, इसके लिए याद रखो HAM, human, apes, monkey. It is called as menstrual cycle. ये याद रखो, याद रखने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Many mammals, especially those living in natural wild conditions, exhibit such cycle only during favorable seasons in their reproductive. Only due to reproductive phase are therefore called as seasonal breeders. Many other mammals are reproductive active throughout their reproductive phase, hence called as continuous breeders. That we all grow old if we live long enough is something that we recognize, but what is meant by growing old, the end of reproductive phase, can be considered as one of the parameters of senescence or old age. There are concomitant changes in the body like slowing of metabolism during this last phase of the lifespan. Old age ultimately leads to death. Very sad. In both plants and animals, hormones are responsible for the transition between three phases. What are three phases? Let me show you. This is the three phases we have done. Do you remember this? Birth, growth, death. These are three phases. Remember. Okay, let's go. So these three phases. Old age ultimately leads to death. Interaction between hormones and certain environmental factors regulate the reproductive process and associated behavior expression of organism. Events in sexual reproduction. After attainment of maturity, all sexually reproducing organisms exhibit events and processes that are remarkably fundamentally similarly, even though the structures associated with sexual reproduction are indeed very different. The events of sexual reproduction, though elaborate, complex, and follow a regular sequence. Sexual reproduction is characterized by fusion or fertilization of male and female gamete. The formation of zygote, embryogenesis. For convenience of these sequential events may be grouped into three distinct stages, namely pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization events. First is pre-fertilization events. Now, as you are already aware, gametogenesis refers to the process of formation of two types of gametes. One is male and the second is commonly female. Gametes are haploid cells. Here there is a diagram, very important. This is chlamydomonas, we have just seen. This is cladophora. 1 minute. That was chlamydomonas. Chlamydomonas was like this, right? This is chlamydomonas. This is not chlamydomonas. This is cladophora. This is fucus. This is these are gametes. So let's go for next page. In some algae, the two gametes are so similar in appearance that it is not possible to characterize them into male and female gametes. Hence, they are called as homogametes, isogametes. Isogametes याद रखना, isogametes. फिर उसके बाद क्या होता है? Tell me. Iso, aniso, and oogamete. Just remember, iso में same, aniso not same, oogamous one static, one motile. Remember. So they are called as homogamous, isogamous. However, in majority of sexual reproduction organisms, the gametes produced are two morphologically distinct types, heterogamous. Such organism, the male gamete is called as anthrozoid or sperm. The female gamete is called as egg or ovum. Sexuality in organism. The sexual reproduction in organism generally involves the fusion of gametes from two different individuals. But this is not always true. From your recollection of examples studied in class 11, can you identify case where self-fertilization was observed? Of course, sitting such example in plants is it easy. Finding, sitting means finding. Plants may have both male and female reproductive structures in same plants, that is bisexual, or on different plants, that is unisexual. Monoecious are used to denote the bisexual condition, and heterothallic and dioecious are terms used to describe unisexual condition. In flowering plants, the unisexual male flower is staminate, bearing stamens, while the female is pistillate, bearing pistils. In same individual, if it is in same individual, some flowering plants, both male and female flowering may be present on same individual. Monoecious, separate individuals. Dioecious, some example of monoecious plants are cucurbits and coconuts, and dioecious plant is papaya and date plant. Name the types of gamete that are formed in staminate. Pollen grain, pistillate, ovule. Answer बोला मैंने. See, name the type of gametes that are formed in staminate. Pollen grain, and the pistillate is ovule. Are you able to see this? 1 minute. See, pollen grain, ovule. Let's go for next paragraph. But what about animals? Are individual of all species either male and female, unisexual, or the species which possess both the reproductive organs, bisexual? You probably can make a list of several unisexual animal species: earthworm, sponge, tapeworm, leech. Typical example of bisexual animals that possess both male and female reproductive organs are hermaphrodites. Cockroach is an example of unisexual species, very important. Acha, what is hermaphrodite? Male and female gamete lies in one organism only. It is called as hermaphrodite. Cell division during gamete formation. Gametes in all heterogametic species are of two types, namely male and female. Gametes are haploid, though the parent plant body from which they arise may be either haploid or diploid. A haploid parent produces gametes by mitotic fusion. Does this mean that meiosis never occurs in organisms that are haploid? Yes, this is in algae. Carefully, okay, this is the question of algae. We have to see. Several organisms belonging to Monera, fungi, algae, bryophytes have haploid plant body. Very important. A summary बोल सकते हो तुम 11th की. But in organism belonging to pteridophytes, gymnosperm, angiosperm, most of animals, including human beings, the parental body is diploid. It is obvious that meiosis, the reduction division, has to occur if a diploid body has to produce haploid gametes. If a diploid body has to produce haploid gamete, तो reduction division ही होना चाहिए. This is diversity of sexuality in organism in the next page. This is important. So let's go. Silitanium 13 to 14 के बाद होता है. This is hermaphrodite, earthworm condition है. Testis sac with testes and ovary in one only. This is Cara. It is an algae. Ugonium and Thridium एक ही इसमें होता है. This is dioecious plant. Marchantinia, angiosperm and Thridiospore. Female thallus, male thallus. Marchantinia, bryophyte. This is bisexual flower of sweet potato, stamen carpel. This is cockroach. This is earthworm. This is of cockroach. This is cockroach. This is of earthworm. Sorry. Male, testes, female, ovary. This is bisexual organism. This is hermaphrodite organism. Let's go for this chart. Very important. इसमें सबसे ज़्यादा important है ह्यूमन बीइंग. क्रोमोसोम नंबर इसमें 46 होते हैं. डिप्लॉइड. हाउस फ्लाई 12. फ्रूट फ्लाई 8. ऑफियोग्लॉसम अ फॉर्न टेरिडोफाइट 1260. Very easy to learn. 1260. Rice 24. Maize 20. Potato 48. Butterfly 380. Onion 16. यहाँ पर कॉमन सेंस ये अगर n है, ये अगर 2n है तो ये n होगा. क्रोमोसोम नंबर इन गमेट कितना होगा? हाफ होगा. कोई मेरे को पूछ ही नहीं रहा कि ये कैसे पता चला है क्रोमोसोम नंबर इन मियोसाइट्स कैसे पता चला. तो इट इज़ फाइंड आउट बाय लिंकेज मैप. एक बहुत ही स्पेशल केस है. स्पेशल केस इन एनिमल्स. This is in plant, right? This is a pteridophyte. दिस इज प्लांट. प्लांट में सबसे ज़्यादा क्रोमोसोम रहने वाला ये ऑफियोग्लोसम है ऑफ फोन 1260, उसका आधा 630. लेकिन ओलोकोएंथा इज द हाईएस्ट क्रोमोसोम नंबर इन एनिमल्स. 2n इसका 1600 होता है, राइट. In diploid organism, specialized cell called myocytes, gamete mother cell, undergo meiosis. At the end of meiosis, only one set of chromosome gets incorporated into each gamete. Carefully study table this one. Fill in the diploid and haploid chromosome. Number of the organism. Is there any relationship in the number of chromosome of meiocyte and gamete? It is their relationship. अगर ये एक है तो ये दो है. Common sense. Gamete transfer पढ़ते हैं. After their formation, male and female gamete must be physically brought together to facilitate fusion. Fertilization, that is nothing but. Have you ever wondered how gametes meet? In a majority of organisms, male gamete is motile and the female gamete is static. Exceptions are few fungi and algae in which both types of gametes are motile. There is a need for medium through which the male and gamete move. In several simple plants like algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, water is the medium. Which is the medium? Water is the medium through which this gamete transfer takes place. A large number of male gametes, however, fail to reach the female gamete. To compensate this loss of male gametes during transport, the number of male gametes produced is several thousands times the number of female gamete produced. This is homogametic contact in algae. Fusion of gametes, zygote, new individual. In seed plants, pollen grains are carriers of male gametes and ovule have the egg. Pollen grains produced in anther therefore have to be transformed to the stigma before it can lead to fertilization. In bisexual self-fertilizing plants like peas, transfer of pollen grains to the stigma is relatively easy as anther and stigma are located close to each other. Pollen grains, soon after they are shed, come in contact with the stigma, but in cross-pollinating plants, including dioecious plant, a specialized event called pollination facilitates transfer of pollen grains to the stigma. Pollen grains germinate on the stigma and pollen tubes carrying the male gamete reach the ovule and discharge of male gametes near the egg. In dioecious animals, since male and female gamete are formed in different individuals, the organism must evolve a special mechanism for gamete transfer. Successful transfer and coming together of gamete is essential for the most critical events in sexual reproduction, the fertilization. हम पढ़ने वाले अभी. The most vital, important event of sexual reproduction is perhaps the fusion of gametes. This process is called as syngamy. Results in the formation of diploid zygote. The term fertilization is often used for this process. The terms syngamy and fertilization are frequently used, though interchangeably. What would if syngamy does not occur? However, it has to be mentioned here that in some organisms like rotifers, honeybees, even some lizard birds like turkey, female gamete undergoes development to form new organism without fertilization. This phenomenon is called as parthenogenesis, not parthenocarpy. Parthenocarpy is in fruits ripening, but this is parthenogenesis, very important, okay? Where does syngamy occurs? In most aquatic organisms such as majority of algae, fishes as well as amphibians, syngamy occurs in the external medium water, that is outside the body of organism. This type of gametic fusion is called as external fertilization. Organisms exhibiting external fertilization show great synchrony between sexes and release a large number of gamete into the surrounding medium water in order to enhance the chances of syngamy. This happens in the pony fishes and frogs where a large number of offspring are produced. A major disadvantage is that offspring are extremely vulnerable to predators, threatening their survival up to the adulthood. In many terrestrial organisms belonging to fungi, high-up animals such as reptiles, birds, mammals, in the majority of plants, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperm, angiosperm, syngamy occurs inside the body of the organism. Hence, the process is called as internal fertilization. Now, in all these organisms, the eggs is formed inside the female body, where they fuse with male gamete. In organism exhibiting internal fertilization, the male gamete is motile and has to reach the egg in order to fuse with it. In this event, though the number of sperm produced is very large, there is significant reduction in number of eggs produced. In seed plant, however, non-motile male gamete are carried to the female gamete by pollen tubes. पोस्ट फर्टिलाइजेशन इवेंट्स, ये सबसे लास्ट वाला है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. इसी में सारा फ्रूट, एम्ब्रियो, जाइगोट जो भी है, सीड्स सारा बनता है. पोस्ट फर्टिलाइजेशन इवेंट्स. Events in sexual reproduction after formation of zygote are called as post-fertilization events. The zygote. Formation of diploid zygote is universal in all sexually reproducing organism. In organism with external fertilization, zygote is formed in the external medium, usually water, whereas in those exhibiting internal fertilization, zygote is formed inside the body of organism. Further development of zygote depends on the type of life cycle the organism has and the environment it is exposed to. In organism belonging to fungi and algae, zygote develops a thick wall that is resistant to dissension of the damage. It undergoes a period of rest before the germination. In organism with haplontic life cycle, zygote divides by meiosis to form haploid spores that grow into haploid individual. So, zygote is a vital link that ensures continuity of species between organism of one generation and the next. Every sexually reproducing organism, including us, that is human beings, being life as a single cell, the zygote. Let's go for the embryogenesis. zygote के बाद वाला step. zygote के बाद वाला step. Embryogenesis refers to the process of development of embryo from the zygote during embryogenesis. Zygote undergoes cell division. Herein, zygote undergoes cell division, mitosis, and cell differentiation. While cell division increases the number of cells in developing embryo, cell differentiation helps in groups of cells to undergo certain modification to form specialized tissue, organs to form an individual. ये याद रखना, cell division और cell differentiation. Animals are categorized into oviparous and viviparous based on whether the development of zygote takes place outside the body of female parent or inside, whether they lay fertilized or unfertilized eggs or give birth to the young ones. In oviparous animals like reptiles and the birds, the fertilized eggs covered by hard calcareous cells, calcium का क्लिडोइक eggs बोलते हैं इसको, are laid in the safe place in the environment. After a period of incubation, young ones hatch out. On the other hand, in viviparous animals, majority of animals including human beings, the zygote develops into young ones inside the body of female organism. After attaining a certain stage of growth, the young ones are delivered out of body of the female organism because of the proper embryonic care and protection. The chances of survival of the young ones is greater in the viviparous organism. In flowering plants, the zygote is formed inside the ovule. After fertilization, the sepals, petals, stamen of the flower wither or fall off. Can you name plant in which a sepal remain attached? The pistil, however, remain attached to plant. The zygote develops into embryo and the ovules develops into seeds. The ovary helps develop into the fruit, which develops a thick wall called as pericarp that is protective in function. After dispersal, seed germination and a favorable condition to produce new ones. Now, see, this diagram is given. A few kinds of fruits showing seeds and protective pericarp. This is batana, you know. This is a pea. Pea में क्या देखो, यहाँ पर एक ये seed है, ये pericarp है. This is seed, this is pericarp. This is seed, this is pericarp. This is seed, this is pericarp. So summary पढ़े, चलो समरी में कुछ लाइन्स है जो लेसन्स में नहीं दी गई है. जैसे आई विल टेल यू 2 लाइन्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. रिप्रोडक्शन अनेबल्स अ स्पीशीज टू लीव जनरेशन आफ्टर जनरेशन, एंड द लास्ट लाइन इज इनसाइड द मैच्योर सीड इज द प्रोजेनेटर ऑफ द नेक्स्ट जनरेशन, द एम्ब्रियो. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट लाइन. Let's go for this 11 quick, very important questions of reproduction in organism. Offsets are produced by mitotic division. Offset is a vegetative part of plant formed by mitosis. Meiotic division occurs in reproductive organs during formation of gametes. Parthenogenesis is formation of the embryo from ovum and egg without fertilization. Parthenocarpy is a fruit formed without fertilization. Remember, okay. Which of the following flowers only once in lifetime? This is bamboo species. Which one of the following is not correct? अगर not correct पूछा है तो बाकी के तो correct होंगे ना. This is not correct. So बाकी के पहले read करेंगे because these are correct. Offspring produced by asexual reproduction are called as clone. अभी पढ़ा NCERT में. Microscopic motile asexually reproductive structures called as zoospore. This also we have read. Water hyacinth growing in the standing water drains oxygen from the water that leads to the death of fishes. This is NCERT line completely. So wrong is in potato, banana, ginger, the plantlets arise from the internodes present in the modified stem. इसका explanation पढ़ेंगे यहाँ पर. See, potato, banana, ginger propagate vegetatively by their modified stem. Potato propagates by tuber, which has buds over its eyes and or nodes. These buds produce new plantlets. Banana, ginger propagate with the help of rhizome, which also have buds on or nodes for the formation of new plantlets. Let's go for fourth question. Which one of the following generates new genetic combination leading to variation? Common sense, this is sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction. A very American accent. So, इसका पढ़ना है क्या? We don't want to read reason, don't read. Match column 1 with column 2. This is very important, very important. मेरे को लगता है ये question आएगा next time. See, are you able to see? Pistil fused together is syncarpus. Formation of gamete is gametogenesis. Hyphae of higher ascomycetes is called as dikaryotic. Unisexual female flower is called as pistillate. Very important. अगर इसका पढ़ना है हमको, चलो पढ़ते हैं. Fifth का D दिया है. No reason is given because that is common sense, right? So we have ticked the D answer. Which of the following pair is not correct? ऐसे not आया तो पहले जो टिक किया है उसको, जो आंसर आया अपना उसको wrong कर दो, बाकी का पहले पढ़ो. If you are solving mock test or like this. Conidia penicillium, offset water hyacinth, terror of Bengal, rhizome का है banana. जो wrong है binary fission, उसका explanation पढ़ते हैं यहाँ पर. Sargassum is a brown alga. In brown algae, asexual reproduction occurs by means of spores. Sexual reproduction varies from isogamy, anisogamy and oogamous. Chalo, next question. In ginger, vegetative propagation occurs through, common sense अभी पढ़ा, rhizome से होता है. Oogamy fertilization involves, क्या होता है involve? A large non-motile female gamete and a small motile male gamete. This is seen in fungi, that is biological classification. During regeneration, modification of organ to the other organ is known as epimorphosis. इसका reason पढ़ते हैं. 9th. There are two mechanisms of generation, that is very important. This is morpholysis and epimorphosis. Morpholysis axis is, it involves the reconstruction of the whole body from a small fragments by reorganization. The planaria में होता है, right? Existing cells. The regenerated amoeba is smaller than the original one, amoeba. However, after the completion of the process, grows and attains normal size after some time. Epimorphosis क्या है? It replaces a lost organ of the body by proliferating new cells from the surface of wound or injured part. Right? Regeneration of an appendage in an arthropod, arm in starfish and alien lizard occurs by the process of epimorphosis. Next question. Let's go for last two questions. The process of series of change from larva to adult after embryonic development is called as metamorphosis. 10th का पढ़ना है. Metamorphosis is the process of series of changes from larva to adult after embryonic development. इसमें देखो, growth is a result of greater anabolic processes over the catabolic processes in the organism. Very important line. Aging is progressive deterioration. 11th question is, nothing lives forever but continues life. Life continues. What does it mean? Older die but new are formed due to reproduction. Sexual. So here we have completed the lesson. Thank you. Keep studying. Bye. Hope positive. hope positive, and I will come with the next lesson in next lecture. Thank you. Bye.